All out of bubblegum. You want to answer? I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Welcome everyone to another episode of The Outsiders. I'm your host Sean Sims. Our co-host Doc Cheatham, he is on assignment. Very interesting assignment that he's on. He's having a meeting with some folks, and I'm sure when he calls in a little bit later on, he's going to talk about it as some serious business. But on The Outsiders, we want to talk about what we usually start off with, and that is our sports team, those O's or the Ravens, the Orioles. They're in second place, a game and a half behind the Yankees. But you know what? It's a long season, but they're looking good. They're playing well. And we do have, and he's going to be with us for a little bit. He's running for the Council District, 7th District, and his name is Christopher Anderson. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing, sir? Thank you for having me on.
Well, I'm glad to have you. Doc, like I said, is on assignment. So we're going to be doing an interview with Christopher Anderson, talking about his goals, what he wants to do. He's running against the dreaded Pigpen. That's what I call him, Pigpen. James Torrance, 7th District. And I'm sure that if he gets in, Christopher is going to clean that district up because it's the dirtiest district in the dirtiest city in America. And those folks who voted for young James as a Democratic nominee, and he's the incumbent. Big mistake. I don't know what's in the water in the 7th District that would possess these people to vote for this numbnuts. But we're going to get into that, and we're going to first talk about, because this is a big deal, and for whatever reason it's not on the radar. It's big on the internet. What's going on? The Outsiders, we cover local news, we cover national news, we cover international news. So we have a broad spectrum. But I want to start off. Usually I finish the podcast, on the tail end talking about more international, national stuff. But for this show, I want to start with what's going on internationally. It's a big deal, and I don't know why it's not on the radar. It should be more, but our allies in NATO, they're playing a very dangerous game. I spoke about it last week on the podcast. They're playing a very dangerous game with those Ruskies, with Russia, through Ukraine. So I'm going to go ahead and cue that up so that people can hear what's going on. Here we go.
Well, NATO appears barreling towards World War III. This after President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, offered up a peace agreement, which NATO, unceremoniously crapped all over. Now, Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, warning all of us that, yes, in fact, NATO is moving to expand, building 3 additional bases, and plans to push us into full-blown war with Russia. Watch.
Now, this is the president of Hungary, so I'm going to do a little translating, speaking Hungarian. So I'm going to do a little translating to let you all know he's a NATO member as well, Hungary. And so let's go, let's continue.
A NATO úgy akarja segíteni Ukrajnát, hogy létrehoz egy úgynevezett NATO.
NATO wants to help Ukraine to create a so-called NATO Ukraine mission.
Ukrán missziót. Ez azt jelenti, hogy a NATO fogja koordinálni az Ukrajnának adandó fegyverek.
This means that they will coordinate the transfer of weapons to Ukraine, and they will create 3 large bases.
átszállítását, létre fognak hozni 3 nagy támaszpontot, ahol átadják a fegyvereket Ukrajnának, de
And they're going to create these 3 large bases where they will hand over weapons to Ukraine.
még itt NATO országok területén, Lengyelországban, Szlovákiában, Romániában.
Okay, but here in the territory of NATO countries, in Poland, Slovakia, Romania. Okay, continue.
Mi erre nem vagyunk hajlandóak.
We are not willing to do this.
Szerintünk, ahol fegyvereket adnak át, az katonai célponttá válik az ellenség nézőpontjából, és ott bármi megtörténhet.
And what he's basically saying is the weapons handed over, countries are handing these weapons over, those countries become military targets from the enemy's point of view. So that would put them in the crosshairs of Russia.
Tehát az ukrán misszió azt jelenti a NATO felől, hogy létrehozza ezeket a fegyverkoordinációs átadási pontokat. A második, hogy a NATO tagállamok pénzt dobnak össze, hogy támogassák Ukrajna katonai erőfeszítéseit, és harmadrészt pedig kiképeznek ukrán katonákat.
So what he's saying is there's going to be training going on in the Ukraine. They're going to be training the soldiers and so on. And there's 3 different parts that are going to be basically detrimental. And Hungary, and anything can happen. So Hungary does not want to take part in this. Let me continue.
Van egy vita, hogy a saját területükön vagy Ukrajna területén, de a lényeg, hogy a frontra menő ukrán katonák kiképzésében közvetlen szerepet vállalnak. Most Magyarország ebben nem akar részt venni. És ezt a problémát kellett megoldani. Hogy úgy, ahogy ők, mi is álljunk át a béke oldaláról a háború oldalára.
And he's not the only one. We have Serbian.
So that's what they're saying. I mean, I paraphrase, but he went on a little bit more, but at the end he's saying that they don't want to be involved in this. That's craziness. So let's continue with this.
President Vucic also saying the very same thing, that war with Russia will start in about 3 months. So 3 months till a full-blown war, this appears to be what NATO wants. And NATO seems to be getting this. Vucic also saying the very same thing, that war with Russia will start in about 3 months. So 3 months till a full-blown war, this appears to be what NATO wants. And NATO seems to be getting this. Let's ask former CIA intelligence agent Larry Johnson, who has some impeccable sources on.
Now, the CIA, I want to let the people know this, to become an intelligence analyst with the CIA, you can't be a dumbbell. You got to be on the ball, very, very smart. And I know some people who were recruited by the CIA. I know some who were with the CIA. But you got to be top-notch, intelligent folks. So let me continue.
I wanted to get Larry's assessment of this from an intelligence perspective, and what is sort of like happening in the back channels right now as this appears to be barreling towards war. Larry, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Hey, Clayton. Great to be with you, man.
So, we see Putin put out this peace proposal the other day.
With respect to your last question, yes, that's where we're headed. Putin he's playing a game of poker with the West, and the West doesn't realize it's not holding any cards. So when you go back and look at the negotiations that took place in March of 22, Putin at that point was willing to let Luhansk and Donetsk stay within Ukraine. So the Russians are prepared. They recognize they are at war with NATO. They're not just fighting Ukraine. Today, they want to fight China. These guys are like a drunk at a bar that's out of control, wants to fight everybody. And like that drunk in the bar, incapable of throwing a punch. And the Turks told the rest of NATO, hey, if you get into war with Russia, count us out. Turkey represents the second largest military force in NATO. Without Turkey, NATO's an empty shell.
So you hear what's going on. We have a situation here. I've been talking about this for months, and people just ho-hum, whatever. Wake up, people. There might be a World War III coming. And this is not like it was in the 40s when you had conventional weapons. You're talking about tactical nuclear weapons. Chris, what do you think of this?
I think that we as Americans should be paying attention. And I say Americans, like you said, you like to talk about a broad spectrum of things, especially with this upcoming election, because right now several other countries have joined NATO, Sweden and Finland as well.
Yes, they have.
This all is pointing to, if we need to start calling ourselves woke if we're not going to be woke. This is all pointing to World War III. And now we're giving them weapons. When Joe Biden did his State of the Union address, he said he was so proud of Sweden joining NATO that he was like, this is what we are doing now. We. And when they say we, that's America. America's one of the strongest countries, and we've allied ourselves with the Ukraine to help fight Russia. Several more countries, and we're looking at World War III, Sean. And I think this election season, we need to start thinking different about our goals. Like you said, the broader picture is what's on the stage.
Exactly, because here's the thing. People live in a bubble. The United States is the richest country in the world. It's the most spoiled country. Even though we have a lot of issues, you still have homeless people. You still have people who are struggling. The gas prices are up through the roof. The food prices are through the roof. And the cities are violent, getting more violent. Things that have happened in Baltimore, violent, one of the most violent cities, not just in the United States, but on the planet. But even with that said, you still have to take a look at what's going on that could affect you on the world stage, not just local. Because the first thing you get up in the morning and when you go outside, it's your neighborhood, it's your streets that you live on, that you want to be safe, that aren't safe in Baltimore City and a lot of big cities. But when you're talking about a world war, when you're talking about in 2025, they're going to be bringing back the draft, I hear.
The draft, yes, the draft.
Okay, so you're getting ready for war, a long, drawn-out war, when you're talking about bringing back the draft for 18-year-olds, conscription, if you will. So you all out there who are not looking, like you just said, Chris, who aren't woke. Oh, we're woke. Really? Are you? I don't think you're woke.
I don't think so either.
I think you're asleep because you don't understand how the world really works. And this country is based off of money, the petrodollar. We went into Afghanistan, that was a poppy field. Iraq, that was oil. And now you have a situation where the NATO, the U.S., Biden is giving Ukraine tactical weapons that can reach deep inside Russia. What do you think Putin's going to do? You think he's just going to lay down and take that? You don't think he's going to start maybe weaponizing the cartels in Mexico? You don't think he's parked some nukes in Cuba? I went over this last week. It's called a Zircon. The Zircon is a hypersonic missile. The Chinese have them as well. And they're talking about poking their finger at the Chinese. And there's a situation going on in Taiwan as well. So people need to know about these things. That's what the Outsiders, that's what we do. We have information, we inform people. Not just what's going on locally, about what's going on locally in Baltimore, but what goes on nationally and internationally. And we're going to keep our eye, Chris, we're going to definitely keep our eye on what's going on. We're going to let the people know as the information comes. I may even start having to do, I don't know, segments throughout the week, 5-10 minute segments periodically throughout the week because of this situation that's happening with the World War III scenario with NATO, Europe, Canada, United States, Russia, China, and the rest of the world. But this is why we have you here, Chris. We want to talk about locally your election that's going on in the 7th District with you're running against, like I said earlier, James Torrance. We call him Pigpen because it's the dirtiest district in the dirtiest city in America, and for whatever reason, folks.
He won't clean it up.
Won't clean it up, and people actually voted for this numbnuts. Voted for him. The stories I've been getting back, and I have email threads between myself and James Torrance. So I'm not just talking out of the side of my head. I've actually dealt with this guy. So I know what I'm talking about. Chris, with what's going on, as a council person for District 7, what would you do if you were to get in office? How would you straighten things out in the 7th District and improve things for the citizens?
Well, just like what you said about the Russia and Ukraine and everything, and what I said earlier, we need to change the leadership. See, all this stuff is putting towards bankrupting America, bankrupting our citizens, and bankrupting our cities. We can see this in the diagram of how they got things going. When we say that we're woke, we want to change and we want something different. But I don't see how we don't reach out and vote for something different. I want to clean up that. One of the things I've always been involved in several cleanups around the city. Most people have seen me doing stuff like that because I do not like the way they label our district, District 7. The part of District 7 I live in is 10 North. Mm-hmm. It seems to be always littered with dirt, always littered with crime, people standing around and drugs. Wow. And the police are right there in the community. As I talked to you and Doc about before, there's a sub-police station right on the corner of Penn North, right behind the subway station, right next to the subway food outlet in the Ofo Hall. But there's never no police there, and that area right behind CDS is becoming an open-air drug market. You can't tell me that the authorities don't know about it, and they have a police department sitting right there on the corner, which is also the MTA police. It seems like this is all by design to blame things on black folk over and over again. Well, black people are miseducated. Well, black people can't get their stuff together, and always seems to be pointing towards us. But when you got people like James Torrance that are in office and elected officials like our current president that are asleep behind the wheel with the issues that are right on the ground locally, I'm with you. We shouldn't be involved in it. We shouldn't be talking about a World War III or a war with Ukraine until we start taking care of our own neighborhoods and our own city and our own country. And that's what I want to do when I get in there. I don't want to worry about, I do worry about the crime. Everything, all situations to me coming from District 7 and when it comes to Baltimore. They test that ground with the opioids. Did you know that's the highest area of the opioid overdose in the nation? And yes. It seems like we're always a write-off in West Baltimore. And I want to change that. I want to see that area revitalized. I want to see more of not a heavy policing where we knocking people down or throwing people down on the ground, but more of a relationship with the law enforcement in the area where when you're walking down in that open air drug market, instead of arresting people, you just walk right through and say, listen, this first, none of that here right now. We're trying to make this district, send the message out there, we're trying to make this district look like a well-run district and not a dumping ground for bad policies and to blame it on the citizens. I want to come in there and make that big difference and that big change and be an image for the people in that area when I walk through with certain other elected officials like Catherine Pugh used to do, to walk down the street with, and Mayor Sheila Dixon used to do when they used to walk down the street with the public officials and the police officers just to see the problems in the neighborhood and to try to fix it. That's what I want to come in there and try to do in that area. James Torrance is not doing it. I haven't seen James Torrance in that district unless he's campaigning. And we voted wrong the first time. I think we need to get it right this time and vote somebody different in there to make a change.
Well, Doc Cheatham, he actually said yesterday, Juneteenth, we were at Matthew Henson Park, and he said, hey, I haven't seen James Torrance. I haven't seen him around. He mentioned a few other people as well, and the Board of Elections, I want to throw this out there as well. The Board of Elections meeting, I just got this in. It looks like the Baltimore City Board of Elections, we have our podcast, and we're taping. So it's about 10 of 5 of 3. And Baltimore City Board of Elections will be holding a special meeting. They're holding it at 3 o'clock. It looks like they're getting ready to hold it. Now, they made sure to do it on a Thursday. between 2 and 3 because they knew I was doing my podcast. Make sure hold this board of election special meeting when Sean Sims is taping his Outsider podcast with Doc Cheatham.
Can't be there.
So that I can't be there, and then do it at the last minute so he doesn't know. But I got this over, and I was there. Actually, I was on the Zoom call when they were certifying the election, and I gave Armstead Jones what for. I actually took him to school. Boy, he sounded like a moron when I got finished with him. I don't know anything about forensic audit. And you're the executive director of the Board of Elections for Baltimore City, and you don't know what a forensic audit is. Need I say any more? Now, that's what you're dealing with. So I digress. I want to point something out here for you, Chris, and I want to see if you know this. This is about Torrance and his record. Torrance allowed potentially mountain-high contaminated soil to be moved from the middle-class Ashburton and Hanlon communities. From what Doc said, these Ashburton people, Ashburton people, they're the ones who voted for numbnuts, James Torrance. You're gonna let me stop here. You're gonna have to go up to these Ashburton people, Hanlon, Parker, whoever these people are, voting for this guy. I don't know what's wrong with you. Need your head examined. You need to go there, campaign really hard, and meet with these folks and these leaders, Chris, in these communities that voting for this nothing happening. James Torrance. But let me finish. He allowing potentially mountain-high contaminated soil to be moved from the middle-class Ashburton and Hanlon communities and dumped in the poor black community of Rosemont in his community. He won't respond to the community's outcry. Of course he won't, because he doesn't care about you. Won't respond to the community's outcry for help to test the soil and remove it. Oh, here's another thing. Torrance failed to hold DPW and contractor Oscar Reda, whatever his name, I think he's from Texas, accountable for failing to meet promises of Oscar Renda employing blacks within neighborhoods near Hanlon Park and Druid Hill Park against a $340 million contract awarded Oscar Renda for the two projects. Oh, I got one more. Wait, James is on a roll. Torrance refused to render aid to his black female constituent. Oh yeah, I was there. When she was assaulted by, oh yeah, that's right, you were, assaulted by a white male Baltimore member during a city council meeting on Complete Street several months ago. Yeah, she said, hey, James, you're my councilman. And he goes, what do you want me to do? Did nothing. Coward. I'm going to call you that, James. I'm going to call you a coward. Because that's what you are. You got a yellow streak, 2 miles long and 1 mile wide going down your back. Coward. You got a woman who's assaulted right in front of your face on the city hall floor and asking for your aid and assistance in some manner, and you just blow her off because you're probably just too scared to do anything. Chris, this is the type of guy you're running against. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm glad you brought up several of those things. Number one, let's unpack this dumping. What you said is very important, the middle class. Now, James has this soil from one area and putting it in what we call the ghetto, or how would I say, less advantaged people. Once again, another dumping ground and around disadvantaged black people to make it look like we're the problem. And then now we're giving him calls and calling him out on it, and he's not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, he allowed
it. Wrap that right in. Not. I guess wrap that right in with him not helping black women and not helping the black community. And this man is working for the system. Okay, now I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. He's working for whites.
So
mainly. There you go. Hey. People always want to call other people sellers. Like I'm on the conservative side, and people want to call us sellers. You got to look at what the people that are in office what plan that they're doing to you right in front of your face, and then we keep calling ourselves woke and then keep voting for the same people. This man does not care about black people. The Linda Bagg situation that he has not addressed yet, and on election day he was approached by several of the constituents in the neighborhood about women's rights and how he doesn't support women. When you look at all these things, you know that this politician is not for the people. I said that the first time I ran against him. He's not for the people. He's for the system. You don't need another career politician in there. They just take away from you as citizens, and then when the problems arise, they blame those same problems on you. Well, you should be more involved in the crime. You get out there and you police the neighborhood. No, that's your job as an elected official. You're supposed to make things better, not worse. And we got to ask ourselves, the 4 years under James Torrance, all these complaints, has the situation in District 7 got better or got worse? It's got worse, and I'm going to make a change to that.
Well, he's part of the machine, and what the people...
Definitely.
The machine. He's part of the machine. He doesn't care about the people. Politician got in the office, and now I guess he thinks he's hot stuff. But he is a part of that machine, and what the people should do by not voting for James Torrance and voting for you, Christopher, is rage against the machine. That's what needs to happen. It's starting to happen in other places around the country. It is. It's starting to happen, and I'm going to go over it. How much more time do you have, Chris?
I'm here, sir. I'm here for you, sir. Go ahead. I'm loving this. I mean, this is what woke and being is all about. Put those facts out there. Let the people know. And some people say, well, you might not do any better. You don't know that. You
will do better. No, I'm gonna. I'll go out on a limb, on a line right now, and say, Christopher, with the conversations I've had with Christopher Anderson, and dealing with him, and dealing with James Torrance, with my just judgment, I'm going to say unequivocally that Christopher Anderson is a much better person to have in office in the 7th District as a council person than James Torrance. Okay, much better. And raging against this machine is going on all over this country. And I'll give you an example of raging against the machine. The Democratic Party, the Democratic machine. Guess who's raging? And Doc and I spoke about this. I brought this up over a year ago because I saw the trend happening, and that is the black vote, the black male vote specifically, but the black vote moving away, getting off that Democratic machine plantation, cotton picking, moving away from that and going somewhere else. Whether it's Republican, Independent, Green Party, but going Libertarian, wherever, but going somewhere else. And the stats and the numbers show that 8% black vote that Trump had in 2020 right now is hovering around 25%. Okay, just like I called it, and I told Doc this, I said, Doc, I see the trend. It's moving away. Black folks, especially the Bronx, and I tell people from Baltimore, okay, people from Baltimore, because it's so deep. Baltimore City is in the Kool-Aid, drowning, just taking it all in. The Democratic Kool-Aid, just drowning in it profusely. And guess who else was drowning in it at one time, and they learned their lesson? The Bronx, New York. That was deep blue. Now it's turning red. And I tell you what, folks from Baltimore, you go up to the Bronx and you start talking, Biden's great and this, that, and the other, Democratic Party so wonderful. Go up to the Bronx and you do that. See what happens. Go up to the Bronx, New York, and start talking that. And see what happens. See what those Latinos, okay, and see what those Puerto Ricans and the blacks and those folks, our folk, see what they say to you when you start talking that. What's going on up there in the Bronx and in New York, how they're turning red. And this situation with black folks starting to get off the plantation, taking that Underground Railroad, baby, moving along, say, y'all been telling us this stuff for 60 years, baby. You ain't done nothing to help. Where is that? Look at the inner cities. Look at these buildings empty one after another, all these shells in Baltimore City. What you talking about, Brandon Scott? What you gonna do, Brandon Scott? Brandon Scott, I want to get on that quickly because I want to tie this in with your running. Christopher Anderson, we're speaking with him on the Outsiders podcast. Christopher Anderson is running as Republican candidate for the 7th District council person in Baltimore City. And I want to give you the power rankings. You heard of the power rankings that they would have in football power ranking? Well, let's go over to Baltimore, the power ranking. Worst category, power ranking for Baltimore. Baltimore power ranking, and we got right here, opioid deaths, power ranking, Baltimore, #1. So we're power ranked #1 on the worst chart with opioid deaths.
District 7, by the way. That started in District 7, by the way.
And started there, James Torrance's district. And let's go back to James Torrance's district. He's a council person, and Christopher Anderson is looking to upseat him. Dirtiest district, dirtiest city in America, power ranking, Baltimore, #1. Dirtiest city in America. Power ranking. Let's go with another power ranking. Government run. The running of the city. Worst, Baltimore. #1. That's Brandon Scott. Brandon Scott, opioid death, dirtiest city. That's Brandon Scott. Now let's go to the power ranking, and this has to do with Wallet Hub. You can go check this out, people. Wallet Hub. Out of 146 cities. Baltimore. Education. Baltimore. Power rank. 144 out of 146. Down at drop dead bottom. And what do? We hire this woman, Dr. Mengele, Sonia Santelisa's Dr. Mengele, because she's torturing the children, this education system. Rehire her for another year. You put Brandon back in. Health rank, Baltimore, at the bottom, 146 out of 146. The bottom, worst health ranking. Okay, let's go to the power ranking. Safety rank. I'm surprised that this is this high. 105 out of 146, 105. Economy rank, power ranking, Baltimore. Brandon Scott, 124 out of 146. Near the bottom. Bottom feeding Brandon Scott. That's what I'm going to call. I got so many nicknames for this kid. He thinks he's a man because he allegedly made a baby. I want to see the DNA test, and I will keep saying that. Don't want to hear it. Kid looks just like the dad. See Ron Pugh. That's my opinion. Baltimore, Brandon Scott, the combination is horrific. Brandon Scott is the worst big city mayor. Tiffany Hanyard, outside of Chicago, the Tiffany Hanyard person, she's all over the internet. She's the worst mayor. The worst big city mayor in America is Brandon Scott, #1 with a bullet. No pun intended. The worst mayor in the history of Baltimore City is Brandon Scott. Period. I will debate anyone, anytime on that matter after I just read those power rankings. Chris, what do you think of that?
Well, they're awful, first of all. And this goes back to what you're saying about 25% hovering around voting for Donald Trump. That's awakened. And it's a shame it's the males, but the males are what I call the fathers of the family. So we got to lead. Men, that's what men do. And hopefully our women will follow us. In 2020, they called the women the backbone to the backbone to the Democratic Party, which is, to me, was a shame when they said the black vote just automatically goes to Democrat. And I think what we're seeing in the Bronx and seeing in Baltimore is people, especially black men, saying we're fed up. We're tired of being stepped on. We're tired of being the boot on our necks like George Floyd. It always comes up to us. Mm-hmm. Everybody talks about every other Democrat, but it's black men that are always put the blame on, that are always tortured, that are always struck down. And now we're standing up and saying we're not putting up with it no more. We got eyes to see. You don't tell us who to vote for. You don't tell us to keep accepting this low bigotry and expectations. That's what we see in the education system with saying the least. I mean, it might not be happening here in Baltimore, but it's happening around the country where more black men are saying, listen, we're fed up. We know we're the target. We know we get the blame for everything. We're fed up, and we want to change it. Like you said, at least vote different just to show them that we're not fools, that we won't be taken advantage of. The situation with Sonia Sandalise, it shows that they're miseducating the students in Baltimore City. And I put partially the blame on that. A lot of people like to put the blame on the citizens. Oh, we don't know any better. We're awakening slowly. I think we're not all that as woke as we say we are. We're sleepwalking. But we're starting to realize that as more and more people dash water in our faces and tell us to wake up, we're starting to realize and look up and say, you know what? I might have been asleep for a long time, but I'm not voting for this machine and this system no more, and no one for it. They just keep marching us down a wrong path of destruction. And when our lives are at stake, they're just thinking they're just holding on to more power and more power and more power at our expense. And I'm sorry, to the delight of our naivety and ignorance by this school system that's failing our children. If we continue to let this happen in the future, if they're educating children right now and not teaching them cursive, and our children are going to jail in high numbers now, what do you think is going to happen in the future? We gotta stand up and say we want something different, and we got to stand up and say it now.
It's a pipeline. We got a pipeline from the school system to the prisons. And the prisons, and President Eisenhower on his way out, beware of the military industrial complex. But here's the thing, President Eisenhower, former Supreme Allied Commander, and that's General Eisenhower, who became President Eisenhower, he should have said the military prison industrial complex, because the prison system is a business.
Yes.
So it's like a hotel chain. You need people in the hotel chain to make money. You need to fill out those rooms and those beds. So you kill two birds with one stone. Two birds with one stone. You get that federal money coming in because the scores are so low. Oh my goodness, their scores are so low. We've got to pump more money in to get those scores up. And they keep those scores low, and they keep pumping that federal money in. Okay. And then, of course, you have the system that's set up waiting for them. That's the prison system. And, of course, you have the legal system, the attorney, everything. It's all a big machine, a money-making machine. It's what it is. And people need to wake up. Wake up. There's other ways this country can expand and grow than off of the backs of black males whose scores are being kept down low purposely. Sandalise is rewarded for doing her job, Dr. Mengele.
With another year contract. At least it's just a year, though, Sean. At least it's just a year.
Yeah, well, that's just sucker people.
Too much.
Yeah, it's a sucker people. You say, you know what, we're not going to give her 4 or 5 years. Calm people down a little bit, put them to sleep. It's called putting people to sleep. I studied the psychological operation. You put them, Brandon didn't come up with this. People are telling him what to do. He's dumb as a box of hammers. Now, so they're explaining to him, this is how you do it. You do this, you do this, you do this, okay? That's psych operations. It's a psychological operation. You put them to sleep. Hey, just give her a year. And then what they do is they tweak the scores to show things improved here, 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 here. And then they say, hey, look, things improved. Man, we're going to give her a 3-year contract. It's the okie doke. It's called the okie doke. Come on, people. Been around long enough. That's a sucker move. Give her a year, scores go up a little bit, and hey, look at what Brandon did. I got to talk about this because it was such underhanded. That's why it's called Slim Shady. Slim Shady. There's no initials in between the Slim Shady. People are putting false information out there about me. False information, fraudulent information. It's being dealt with. It's going to take a little time, but it is being dealt with as I speak. But Slim Shady, that's what he does. That's the trickery in it. To make you all think, hey, this trash and the recycle is not being picked up. He didn't pick it up for years against the city. against the city ordinance, right? And then right before the election, he does the old okey doke. Okay, we're picking up the trash and recycle twice a week like we're supposed to. The guy did that on purpose. He got played for a bunch of suckers. And that's what's going on.
I don't see how we felt for it, to tell you the truth. I don't see how we felt. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, we people did. It seems like...
That's why I don't call us woke. We keep saying woke. I can't see it. We keep voting for the same thing, getting the same results. And not only did he do that, he did the BG. I know your bill went up.
Of course it has. Are you kidding?
Everybody's gas and electric bill has
gone up.
And yet they voted to bring them back in again. He did that right in front of our faces against the city council's good advice. They said, don't do that. Matter of fact, we voted for him not. And they did it anyway. That's why I'm sorry. I can't take people when they say, I'm sorry to interrupt. I can't take people when they say, oh, we woke, we know better than you. I don't think you do. I
no,
think
you don't.
Being, slowly put back to sleep.
I think they are asleep. I think they're asleep, and they're just driving them into an all-out coma, because they're definitely asleep. To vote for somebody who screwed you over, stabbed you in the back like that, right to your face, arrogant about it. Yeah, I know Armstead Jones is probably in your hip pocket because he can't stand Sheila Dixon. I'm not going to even get into that. That's another story. Sheila, you thought you were going to win. Delusion. And so, delusional. So you have all of this, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to be base and use words like crud. But you have all this visceral negative energy that comes out of Baltimore City. You have an arrogant, pompous, egotistical mayor who is being backed by certain folk pulling his strings like a puppet. So he's cocky and arrogant, like he's some kind of Don. All kinds of things going on. You got the FBI raiding safe streets. And he's giving money. Money's getting into the hands of safe streets. And you have this situation, a lot of money. ARPA money that should have gone so the trash could have been picked up. Somehow I guess it got in the hands of safe streets. And from information I'm getting, that situation is being taken care of. I'll put it like that. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and say, you know what? Little birdie told me. I mean, I'm just making a guess. I'm pontificating. That more of this situation is going to come out with what's going on with these raids that happen and other things that are coming out of this. So there's a reason. There may be a reason why Brandon was not officially yet, but being put back in the office. When I get more information, I'll go over it. But I believe from the information I'm getting, and again, I'm just pontificating, there's other things in the works. Wink, wink. And I don't know what you've been hearing, Chris, but everything is not as it seems, people. Everything is not as it seems, especially in a corrupt city like this city. And I was born and raised here, Johns Hopkins Hospital. And the way I've seen this city, especially under Brandon Scott, just tank, just go down.
Going down.
In quality. And people leaving.
And we're voting for it.
And people are leaving, they're getting out in droves. Let's get out of here. I mean, it's just time to move somewhere else. Let these people, let them have it. I'm done. A lot of people leaving the state. They're out of here because they're sick of what they see that's going on. And I'll say this much. Everybody, I'm talking specifically to elected officials, everybody eventually whether it's here on earth or after on the other side. Everybody's got to pay the piper. So you keep doing everything you're doing in the dark and thinking you're getting away with it and you think you're so powerful. The lies, the deceit, the fraud. Everybody eventually. God has the last word. Jesus is our judge. The Father has given authority and judgment to the Son. So everybody has got to pay the piper. But Chris, thanks for being on The Outsiders. I guess Doc's not calling it. I guess Doc's not calling. Unless you want to stay, I'm going to do one more segment if you want to stay.
Sure, I got several things to say about this paying the piper thing.
Oh, go ahead. Sure.
You say that as we're going to pay the piper down the road. I think we're paying the piper right now, and this is the part of being asleep. We don't know that we're paying the piper. The one thing, the beauty about this general election is you have a chance that, if you got buyer's remorse, get them out of there. We got other people that are running in this. Some people act like the primary is over.
That's what they're doing.
They won. But this is what interviews are for. Just by listening, and you know that this man sold your BGE off, and you know that James Torrance does not come out to your community, and you know that he's taking waste and putting them from one community to another. You have a chance to just go in a different direction. Black people go in and I say black people, I mean all people, but it's mainly us. I mean, the school system, St. Louis is failing. Let's get real. They're failing young black and brown children. They do that for a reason because that's how they keep us on this. Fueling this machine. We're fueling our own demise with one vote at a time. And we need to wake up and change. We need to step up. And I'm glad 25% of the black vote is going to Trump. I'm glad. It shows that a portion of us are waking up. And all you need is a critical mass of people waking up. And those people are going to wake everybody else up. And then we can build families and build community again and just take this government and tell them go shove it with their false, bad lies, empty promises, and bad policies. So I'm looking forward to a change in a new way.
Well, you should see on YouTube, social media, the brothers, and I'm talking the younger brothers, middle-aged guys. I mean, they are ripping Joe Biden and the Democratic Party another one. I mean, it is brutal, and there's no mincing of words, and it's not pleasantries. They are dropping S-bombs, F-bombs, because black men are getting fed up with the Democratic plantation. That's what it is, these overseers. So let's do this. My producer's having a fit.
It's Democrat.
Anyway, Democratic. Now, let's do this. I'm going to do this last segment. I have to talk about this. It is smoking hot. Attorneys all over the country are looking at this. Judges, attorneys, the legal analysts are looking at what's going on in Georgia. Have you heard about what's going on in Georgia, Fulton County?
No, inform me.
Okay, you've got to hear this. Okay, I'm going to prep this real quick. I spoke about it last week. A judge in Fulton County, this rapper, Young Thug. I don't know if you ever heard of him. No, yeah. He's a Republican. He doesn't know about that stuff. No. Young Thug. He's on trial. It's some kind of RICO trial.
A conspiracy, RICO trial of him doing some major crime or whatever.
Exactly. He's on trial, and this Judge Ural Glanville, this guy, they're calling him on some of the shows on the internet, they're calling him Judge Suge Knight, because he looks a little bit like Suge Knight, big burly guy, black guy. And he had a meeting in his chambers, ex parte, that was called by the prosecution, the DA's office, because of a witness that they had, I guess, to get a witness that they had to, testify. Anyway, the defense, Brian Steele, who's the attorney for Young Thug, and the defense knew nothing about it. And it was leaked to the defense, and the defense brought it up, well, actually the trial, pre-trial, brought it up and said, hey, look, got some information that there was an ex parte meeting. And we didn't know anything about it, and we weren't invited. Can't do that. The court can't do that. And the judge, Ural Glanville, what kind of name is that? Ural Glanville then held the attorney, Brian Steele, in contempt and said, you better tell me who told you that. I guess he wanted to retaliate against whoever spilled the beans on his illegal ex parte meeting. And Brian Steele said, no, I'm not telling you that. That's client work privilege information. So the whole thing happened with this, and people are watching this, legal analysts, and they're saying the judge can't do this. You can't have a meeting with the witness who was sworn in and the DA's office. Looks like you're colluding with the DA. What, are you kidding me? Even though that sort of thing goes on all the time. But this guy got caught with his britches down. So take a quick listen to what has recently happened, Chris, and my audience, my YouTube audience, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. Anyway, let me go ahead and play this. You have to hear this. This is something else. Okay, let me cue it up.
Like, I know that's what he did. It's just so funny how they try to keep their composure. Listen, I'm not going to, but let's continue.
I did. And this is February 7th of 2024, this year, when the investigator for the DA's office is supposed to be talking to you about a case, but in fact is calling you, talking to you about going out on a date. Is that true?
Yes.
Did the fact that this employee of the district attorney's office was trying to date you come into your mind as you're thinking about whether you have to come in here and testify or not?
Yes.
So the text message that's dated Tuesday, March 26, 8:06 p.m. that you were asked about earlier and that was put up on the screen, where it says, well, I was in an accident, I'm just now leaving the hospital. Like I said, I don't give a fuck if they lock me up. What that gonna do? Shit, so can you get the judge to call me? Those your words?
Yes.
Because they're about to see some more of their attorneys be on the news or in jail too for sexual harassment. Please do. That's your sexual harassment. Please do. That's your text message, right?
Yes.
That is verbatim your text message, right?
Yes.
So you asked the judge to call you, or you asked the investigator to have the judge call you. Is that true?
Yes.
You did not say, tell the judge he can kiss my ass. True?
You're right. That's saying I did not tell the judge to kiss my ass. I wouldn't have no reason to tell the judge that. I just wanted him to call. What is the judge doing calling the witness? And how often, is that strange to you? I've never heard of a judge calling a witness for the state, for the prosecution. Some of you may have missed that. We're going to continue that. It's very, we just got a couple minutes left. But I didn't want you to miss that part. I mean, I know there's a lot right here to unpack. But the judge is, like, you're a witness. Why have you had any dealings with the judge? You told the prosecution you don't want to testify and that you lost your job. This investigator is sexually harassing you and trying to get you to, he's sexually harassing you. Plus you lose your job because of what they're doing, calling you in so often, okay? And you don't say, the DA needs to know this, Fannie Willis needs to know this, all this. The judge needs to call me? And you don't say, the DA needs to know this, Fannie Willis needs to know this, all this. The judge needs to call me? Is this proper for a judge to have communication directly with a witness for the state?
No. No, it's not. Have you ever heard anything like that, Chris?
No, I have not. It stinks corruption. When this whole thing with Young Thug, it smelled bad from the beginning. No, that's all I have to say about him.
Well, I mean, it may smell bad on the side of young Thug being he's on the defense, it's plaintiff. But when you have the DA's office, or should I say, and add to this, when you have the Attorney General's office, the DA's office, any office that is in either a defense mode or a prosecutory mode in a court system, somehow, in any way, interacting with the judge in favor of the other side, that is corruption at its purest form. That is a complete violation of due process. That is a banana republic. That is third world country. I'm sure, because of all the people that are looking at this, and this sort of thing goes on all the time. I'm pretty sure it goes on in the state of Maryland. I'm privy to a lot of information of things that have happened in the state of Maryland, in the Maryland judiciary. I'm privy to a lot of things that have happened. Some of those things will be coming out. Will be coming to the light of day. I'm privy to people who are in government agencies, who work for fair practices, human resources, doing the most egregious things alongside this Ural Glanville. Similar tactics. You've got folks who are representing folk and working for fair practice at the same time. What you call a serious, egregious conflict of interest. And guess what? It's okay. This is normal. And I believe strongly that this situation that's going on in Georgia, there are going to be other states, there are going to be other jurisdictions, there are going to be other counties. This is going to set a precedent where this sort of behavior, this illegal, unconstitutional, unlawful, egregious behavior by those in the judiciary is going to start coming out all over the country.
Yes, you're right.
And it should. And as a matter of fact, this Judge Glanville, this thug, because that's what he is, a thug. He's a common thug. He should be made an example. This should be written up in textbooks for law students. This situation that's going on, calling a witness, and then you got someone at the DA's office dating the witness in the trial. And I don't know how much the judge is aware of this dating situation, but he did have an ex parte meeting in his chambers. And this colluding that goes on, I'm going to tell a story real quick. I had a situation. I was 16 years old. So this was 42, 43 years ago. So this is a little while ago. And someone ran into the side of the car I was driving, just happened to be my mom's car. Ran into the side of the car. I'm just driving along, just boom. I end up in court, insurance company's there. And I'll tell you what, let me tell you something. I learned a lesson 42, 43 years ago. I learned a lesson. And this was told to me 3 years after that happened in my business law class at Coppin. And Professor Limas, he was an attorney and became a professor, law professor. And he said in our business law class, the first day, I'll never forget it, right and wrong and the law have nothing to do with each other. And I remember that when I was 16 years old, I was railroaded by this judge. They got up there, they changed their story around 3, 4, 5 times because they were lying. I told the same story, exactly what happened, over and over. Did not change. And they just, you've got to be kidding. So I found that out. And this Judge Ural Glanville, this guy, to be doing what he's, and then it's taped. Chris, this whole thing, you can go, everyone listening, go to YouTube, pull it up. Fulton County Judge Glanville, Brian Steele, Young Thug, pull the videos up. There's one after another, after another, after another of this detail. And I just touched on one thing. There were others as well. They had the sheriff's deputies in the chambers with the witness to intimidate him at the same time. I mean, this is some serious thug. Yeah, the trial's what, Young Thug? It should be Judge Thug.
It should be enough is enough for us as a people. It should be enough is enough. They're starting to do this stuff blatantly right in our faces. And as again, Sean, black people, we're at the center of it. It's like there's low bigotry, low expectations, and the foolery and the effery that we deal with on a regular basis. It's like it's okay to do that with us. And now the system, once again, the system, like you said earlier, it's a machine and it's getting corrupt and nasty as I don't know what. And they think that we're complacent with as a people and that we want this. And that's why we get the blame for so much. I walk the streets in my neighborhood all the time, and I hear people always say, well, why do you people as a people, why do you know they mean black people, why do y'all put up with this? Why do y'all keep voting for it? Why do y'all keep, it's like y'all like it. It's like it's normal to y'all. And when it's in your face day in and day out for 50, 60 years, yeah, it kind of sort of is normal. But this awakening thing is a spiritual thing. We gotta remember it's God. God's going to have the last say so. And God, just like God is waking up us as a people, and we're slow to wake up, he's waking up. That's why everything's getting worse. If you don't wake up, the situation's going to get worse. And you're going to wake up sooner or later. You're either going to wake up with a nice nudge, somebody telling you to wake up, or you're going to wake up with somebody setting your bed on fire. So one way or the other, because the situations are waking up too, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And speaking of Young Thug real quick, this guy sold out the community a very long time ago. I mean, I was surprised when I heard he got arrested on a RICO charge, and I heard the tapes and the phone calls that he made. I don't see how he was dumb. I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word dumb. I don't see, if you know the government got their eye on you, sir, why are you, we need new leadership and we need new examples. That's all I have to say about that. I mean, he damn near threw himself in jail.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, someone who's doing negative things in the community, one of our own, it's horrible. But this is what I've always said. Oh, yeah, sure. A crooked cop, bad cop, that's bad. That's bad. You don't want to have bad cops. Get rid of the bad apples. But what's even worse, 10 times worse than a bad cop or a corrupt cop is a corrupt judge. That person has the power to put people away, give them life, take their freedoms away, rip their due process away, and then go home and eat a bowl of cornflakes like nothing happened. And this Ural Glanville, I believe that the system, and I'm talking about those in the system who have respect for it, and this guy going way over the line, that the system itself and the people in the system, I believe that they're going to take serious action against Judge Glanville, as they should. And this is going to be a template, a new template for those who are out there who are doing the dirty, who are in the judiciary, to say, look, enough's enough. This is too far. And what's being done with black folk, just like you said, Chris, yeah, black folk, oh yeah, take advantage of him, take his rights away. Even though he may have been doing some bad things in the community, you still never mess with due process. No matter how low the person may be who may have been doing the dirty, you still owe them due process. The Founding Fathers wanted that, so that you can't railroad good people. So you got to still give the bad people, or allegedly bad people, you still have to give them their due process. You can't strip that away, because then you become worse than they are in the community. And that's the most important thing. But I guess on that note, that was our last topic. And we had our guest, Christopher Anderson, running for the 7th District, Council Districts, Baltimore City. And Chris, we're glad to have you on. You're a good guest. This is intelligent. This is an intelligent brother that should get your vote. The 7th District, this is the man you should be voting for. I'm going to do this. I'm going to reach out during the show. I'm not saying, any other time, but if he comes on, I'm going to do a professional interview with James Torrance, and I'm going to ask him some questions, Chris. Ooh, yeah. You think he has the cojones?
No.
Boy, that was quick. That was no.
No. The answer is no.
No.
He
Well,
has no cojones at all. No.
okay, little BBs. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to still reach out, because just like I reached out to Antonio Hayes, and he was going to come on. He got some of the questions. He wants to know what his assistant, I guess, is L.A. He wants to know what the questions are going to be. Could you email the? Oh, sure. I emailed the questions, and then oh well, he's not coming on. Yellow, scared chicken. But I'm going to see if I'm going to see, because he likes to brag about the fact that he's a lawyer. I have my law degree. I have my Juris Doctorate. I'm talking about Torrance. I have my Juris Doctorate. I have my. I would have never known unless you had told me. I mean, I'm like, where did he get this Juris Doctorate? From a Cracker Jack box? They just give those out? Because I never would have known that this guy hadn't said in a meeting over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, I have my Juris Doctorate. I have my Juris Doctorate. I'm a lawyer. I have my Juris Doctorate. Would never have known. But anyway, I digress. I want to thank everyone for listening and watching another episode of The Outsiders. I'm going to keep an eye on this World War III business. Baltimore City, what's going on here, this election coming up, everything that's going down. And we'd like to, again, thank Christopher Anderson, running for Council 7th District. He's a Republican, good man, quality man. Let's get some quality in that city council, because it's in dire need of it. Thanks again, Chris.
Hey, can I drop my website real quick?
Most important, of course.
Okay, you can reach me at tinyurl.com/electchris. That's tinyurl.com/electchris. And you catch me on Facebook at Chris Anderson 2020.
Chris Anderson 2020 as well. Okay, Chris, thanks a lot and take care.
All right, thank you, sir, for having me on.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye. Okay, another episode of The Outsiders. Again, thanks to my audience. And I want to say take care. God bless everyone.
I have come here